So you're thinking of buying a home, but you aren't quite sure how to make that big decision? Well, in this video, I'm gonna be offering a few tips on ways to help you make that big financial decision. And you're gonna wanna stick around into the end because I offer a tip that helped a recent buyer get off the fence, and you're not gonna wanna miss it. In this video, I'm gonna be covering some tips that are good for home buying in general, as well as some specifics to the Salida, Colorado area. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. This channel is all about living in the Salida, Colorado area and the real estate market here. So if you're interested in that, please be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you're the first to know when new informative videos become available. My name is Monica McCarthy, and I'm a realtor that specializes in Salida, Colorado and surrounding areas. And I get calls all the time from people just like you looking to move here. So whether you're thinking of moving here in a few weeks or a few months, please reach out to me. All of my contact information is below. I'd be happy to schedule a call with you and help you make a smooth transition to the Salida, Colorado area. Okay, so let's talk about how you can make this big home buying decision. Buying a home is often one of the largest financial or the largest financial decision that you can make. So it's a pretty big deal. I'm gonna offer you some tips here that will help you dial it down and help you make that decision. And right now in the Salida, Colorado area and many places in our nation, home inventory is at an all-time high. So this is actually becoming a hot button for a lot of buyers because you have a lot of choices now. So whereas several years ago, you had to act pretty quickly, you had fewer options, and so perhaps you didn't get the decision fatigue that a lot of buyers are seeing right now. So it's great, you're in a good position. In the Salida, Colorado area, we are a little bit more of a buyer's market. However, it's kind of case by case. I will just note that really quickly here. So some homes do sell pretty quickly, but there's often some that sit for a little bit. And then, you know, if you're a buyer that doesn't have to move right away, then perhaps you might look at the market for a while and see like, oh, there's more coming on. What can I get? If I don't love this one, I'm just gonna keep waiting until the next one comes along. And so while that's the case, there are more homes to choose from, it's also a good idea to just take a giant step back and think about it as what exactly are you wanting, so when that home does become available, you can act on it instead of just being in this position of trying to decide for an extended period of time. So let's talk about one of the ways to do that. A lot of times when I first start working with a client, I will send them this worksheet or even ask them these questions when I start working with them to help them really just dial in on what exactly are your priorities. And it also helps me as their realtor understand how I can best help you identify the homes that fit those needs. So the best way to do this is to just dial in on what are your top priorities in a home. And so we break this down into 3 different categories. 1, what are your top 3 absolutes in a home? So it's important to keep this number low. You don't want to have like 10 absolutes because you're really pigeonholing yourself and making it difficult to find that home. So what are your top 3 absolutes? Is it location? Is it square footage? Do you have to have 3 bedrooms? Could you perhaps make a house work that has 2 bedrooms? Do you have to have a yard? It's very much case by case. I talk to a lot of people about this, and it's always very different. And so it's important to identify for yourself, what are my absolutes in a home? I don't even want to look at that home if it doesn't have that thing. So that's really important. And so in writing this down, so not only identify your absolutes, but write them down so if you've been looking for a while, you can kind of come back to it and remind yourself, oh yeah, I really want to have a garage. I don't want a house that doesn't have a garage. I'm not even gonna look at a house. So why did I take all this time last weekend looking at houses that didn't have garages, for example? Naming those top 3 absolutes is really important. Second tier is what are the top 3 really want to have? So this is kind of, it's not an absolute, but it's a high priority. For example, using the garage example, you really want a garage, but maybe you'd be okay with a carport. So something that's just covering your car instead of enclosed garage, or a storage shed or extra storage space in the house that could offset what you were gonna put in the garage. So like, it would be nice to have extra storage. It's a high priority to have a yard, but not an absolute, because maybe you could find a house that's near trails, and then, you know, having a small yard or no yard isn't as big of a deal because you can easily walk your dog right around the corner. So high priority, but not must-haves, and that could perhaps be met, that need could perhaps be met in another way. So identifying what are the next 3 top priorities for you. And then tier 3 would be the would like to have. So these are the things that, like, it would be so nice if I had this, but if I find a house that checks those other 6 boxes, I'll be okay if I don't have this other thing. It's a really good way to not get bogged down in all of the details of each home. It's nice so you can kind of take that step back and look at it intellectually from the beginning before you start looking at homes. It's really easy for buyers to start getting emotionally attached to properties, particularly if it does check a lot of your boxes and you lose out on it. There are multiple offer situations here. So, you know, taking that step back and deciding, you know, these absolutes, high priority, and would like to have, and this will help guide you through your home search process. To offer some insights into some big decisions that I see for people in the Salida, Colorado area, one of the bigger decisions I see people make is, do they want to be close to downtown or outside of town? So Salida, Colorado, we have a very vibrant downtown area, and it's very bikeable, very walkable, and it's very sought after. The price per square foot is higher as the closer you get to the downtown area, the closer you get to the river. If you find a property on the river, that's significantly higher than a property that is not. So the closer to the downtown Salida, Colorado area you are, the higher the price point it will be. If price is a big concern of yours, as it is for many people, perhaps you can find a house that checks all of those boxes. It has your absolutes, it has the yard, it has the garage, it has the number of bedrooms you want, but then it's not downtown. So maybe that house exists further outside of town. Maybe it's 10 minutes outside of town or 15 minutes outside of town. And so you don't have that downtown house, but everything else about the house is great. I actually made this decision several years ago. And so, you know, I picked the house over the location, and it's a trade-off. So that's a big decision for a lot of people is, are you willing to look in like a 5, 6, 7 mile radius outside of the downtown area, or are you not? So I have some clients that I'm working with, they don't even want to look past a mile. They don't want to look any further outside of, you know, the small grid in the Salida, Colorado area, because it is so important to them to be in a walkable, bikeable place. They don't even want to drive their car as much as possible, which if you live in the downtown area, you can get away with not driving your car quite a bit. You just have a bike or you can walk, and it's amazing. So huge selling point being downtown, but it's a trade-off. So that's a huge decision for a lot of people. Another decision for people is the quality and really the age of the home. If you are in the camp of, I just want to be downtown, does that home have to be new or recently updated? We have a lot of older homes in the downtown area. Salida, Colorado was formed in the late 1800s. So we have homes from the early 1900s here all the way up through recent times. So some of those homes have been scraped and completely rebuilt. Some are older homes that have been remodeled. To what degree has it been remodeled? So for example, did they just update the countertops and the floors and maybe put on some fresh paint, but it's still old electrical and old plumbing and very old insulation, and, you know, so the bones of the house might need some work. So what are you willing to do to that house? What kind of cosmetic work are you willing to put in? What kind of additional work are you willing to put in? And so making that decision kind of ahead of time, and I always ask my clients this as well, is especially when they want to buy downtown, would you consider an older home that needs some work? And so for some people, they're totally fine with that, and then others, no, I just want a newer home. And then, okay, that's possible, but there's just fewer options. And then depending on your price point, it might be hard for some price points, because the median price point in Salida, Colorado is around $700. So obviously it could be more than that, particularly if it's a newer home in a prime location that has a lot of square footage. that's going to come at a premium. Making that decision ahead of time. Do you want to have brand new? Are you okay with something older or maybe something in between? And to kind of keep an open mind about that. So a few points I want to make is ultimately, what are your goals? This is a question I recently asked a client because there were a lot of competing decisions of homes and location and type of home. And like I said, the newer home to older home, the location close to town, outside of town, and then the price point. And so ultimately, one of the biggest goals for this client was maintaining a certain price point. They could go a little higher, the house we were looking at, but they didn't want to. So sometimes if you're in a position where you're qualified for a high amount, look at what that actual month-to-month mortgage payment's going to be. What are your actual monthly expenses? Do you really want to be at your max? So for some people, the answer is no, you don't. You want to also be able to have some extra money to enjoy life and, all of the things. So is it a better decision to find a house that maybe is not in downtown and is outside of town and a little bit at a lower price point, but it's at the point that makes you more comfortable? And so what are your goals? Are you in a position that matters more to not be at the max of your budget? And so you might have to make that concession of not having all of the things, because being within your budget is the most important part. So really, it's all about trade-offs. Unfortunately, the perfect home does not exist. I would love to say it did. It's my job to help you find as close to that as possible, and a good realtor will do that for you. But ultimately, there are some trade-offs. So really help taking a step back and identifying what your top priorities are and what are the things that you can potentially trade off. And then working with a realtor that can offer some decisions for you, and keeping an open mind as well is really important. For example, if you are somebody who would like to have 3 bedrooms, but a 2-bedroom house that maybe has some space to add a third is an option. Or you want to have an extra space in the home for an office, and maybe this little nook could work for that. So maybe it is worth looking at 2-bedroom homes, because some of those 2-bedroom homes might have a little nook. It's not necessarily a bedroom, but it could work for your office, for example. So keeping an open mind, understanding that there are going to be some trade-offs, and then ultimately making the best decision for you, and really considering what is the cost to wait. So like I said at the top of the video, there is a good amount of inventory right now. So pausing for a minute if you don't find the house that you love, and seeing what else comes on the market is an option for some people, and that's totally fine to do. But if that's something that you're doing for many months, over a year, then perhaps you are going to end up losing money in the long run. Our prices in this area are slowly going up. We're at a little bit of a plateau, slow go up. I keep telling people prices are not going down here. Our demand is just too high. So while our inventory is higher, our demand is also high. I don't see our home prices going down in the Salida, Colorado area. Buying sooner than later is good, particularly if you're in a position where you're renting and you're paying somebody else's mortgage. Locking in that mortgage for yourself sooner than later is a good choice financially in the long term. So there might be some trade-offs. You might not find the perfect house, but you can find one that's really dang good. And so if you're able to do that, please jump on it, and I'm happy to help you along the way. If you've got questions about Salida, Colorado and the housing market here, or how to buy a house here, please reach out to me. I'm happy to be a resource for you. It's a beautiful community. There's a lot of lovely homes here, and more coming on the market all the time. So reach out to me. I'd be happy to set you up on a home search and get you started on your search. Thanks so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.